Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Just waiting on people to start signing in. More people before I start. Okay, Sierra, I see you. All right, so I'm going to start calling roll now. All right. Jamari Adams. Jamari Adams. All right. Nadia Bell.
I'm here.
Samaya Blunt.
Here.
Tierra Brady. Tierra Brady. Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown. All right. DeAndre Burgess.
Here.
All right. Jamez Burns. Burns. All right. Ebony Chavis.
Here.
Jada Ellerby.
Here.
Sharnae Ewing.
Here.
Abby Feith. Abby Feith. Or Faith, however you say it. Alexis Fields. Oh, I saw that name. Okay. Brandon Foster.
I'm here.
Jalen Good.
Here.
Sydney Graham. Sydney Graham. Tavia Hawley. Tavia Hawley. Kaswana Houston.
Here.
Kiera Jefferson.
Hey, I'm here.
Got you. Aaliyah Johnson.
Here.
All Robert Jordan.
Here.
Sierra Knox. I got
Here.
you. Kevin Lomax.
Here.
Elisa Maldonado. Elisa Maldonado. Elisa Maldonado. Sincere Mays.
I'm here.
Nasir McDaniel Moore. I got you.
Here.
Got you. Brandon Merritt. Brandon Merritt. Terry Miles. Terry Miles. Mary Monroe. Mary Monroe. Aaliyah Moore. Aaliyah Moore.
Here.
Ariel Moore.
Here.
Daniel Moore. Daniel Moore. Aaron Orr. I think I saw Aaron somewhere on here.
Yep, I am here. Hello.
Hello. Ramia Parker. Ramia
I'm here.
Parker. I got you. Asia Pinnock.
Here. Here.
Got you. Kiera Porter. Raven Rayner. Thought I saw that name signing. Raven Rayner.
Here.
Okay. Gabrielle Rodriguez.
Here.
Quadasia Sharp.
Here.
Tamara Sheely.
Here.
Ariel Sherrod. Simone Tunstall.
Here.
Jeremy Vick. Kerry Watkins.
I'm here.
Talika Yates.
Here.
All right. Alana Young Maddox.
Here.
All right. And was there Carmen Towns in his class? I know last time. Okay, I don't think so. All right. Okay. Anybody come in late? I did not get.
Me, Jamise Burns.
Denise Burns. All right, got you. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Okay, so we're going to be talking about chapter 5. A little bit about, well, no, yeah, chapter 5 this evening. Also, chapter 6 will be posted tomorrow morning. So go ahead and read on that. You'll also have a quiz on the 22nd. So next week we do not have a Zoom. You just need to log in and take your quiz. So we don't worry about meeting for Zoom next week. You got it because you have a quiz. So instead of Zooming, you're gonna log in and do your quiz. And it should be, I want to say it's 15 questions. Let's see. Yes, 15 question quiz. For this quiz that I can remember, I want to say, alrighty. Okay, yeah, it's 15 questions. It's 15 questions with an additional extra credit question. So just before we even get into talking a little bit about chapter 5, the quiz is going to be on chapters 1 through 6. So all you have to do is worry about the current stuff that you would have learned between now and the quiz. So of course, not only for my lecture for chapter 6 will be up tomorrow morning, and of course that means you also need to go ahead and read it. That is what our quiz will be on. So go ahead and prepare for that. So let me make sure. So yeah, 15 questions plus an additional extra credit question at the end. So do take the quiz next week. So instead of us meeting, the quiz will be posted next week. So all right, did everyone get to review or look at my chapter 5 lecture? Everyone look at it or get to see it.
Yeah, we looked at
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And Robert Jordan, I got you, I think. Let me make sure. Yeah, I got you on the roll. Okay, so y'all did see chapter 5. Of course, chapter 5 is about prosecutors. Of course, myself, I'm on the other end. I've never prosecuted a case at all over my whole career. I've always been a defense attorney. Anybody in here interested in being a prosecutor one day?
No, sir. I want to go civil rights.
Civil rights? Okay. All right, cool. Well, I know a lot of times we think of the prosecutor as kind of being, the police or, working with the state, and they really are. But serving in that position allows you to be in a position to make decisions and actually be an advocate. Even though you're a prosecutor, you're still representing the interests of the state and representing justice. So it is a good way to be an advocate. So you can still serve. You're essentially serving the people. You can protect the people and still be an advocate for underserved populations. So it's not always about just sticking it to people and putting everybody in jail. A good prosecutor doesn't think just that way. It's not just about convictions, but it's about justice. And even in a situation as a prosecutor, if your case isn't necessarily a good case, if it has bad facts or there's what we call exculpatory evidence that shows that, of course, you guys do remember, I think I did talk about the difference between exculpatory evidence and inculpatory evidence, right? Do y'all know the difference? Okay, I'll explain it real quick. Inculpatory, of course, culpatory comes from the Latin root of guilty. So when we use inculpatory, that means evidence that tends to show a person is in guilt. X being the word for out, like you exit, or when we say exculpatory, that's evidence that tends to show that a person is out of guilt. So as a prosecutor, it would be your job to not only share inculpatory evidence or use inculpatory evidence to prosecute, but also to share and divulge exculpatory evidence, evidence that may hurt your case. And if it hurts your case enough, it may be the just thing to dismiss the case because the exculpatory evidence essentially hurts your case or shows that this person didn't do it. So the prosecutor is different from a defense attorney. And since chapter 6 is about defense attorneys, I've talked about that a little bit as well. But they're different in the sense that a defense attorney represents an individual. We represent in court, we represent that one client that's standing beside us, and we can only kind of represent one client at a time. As a matter of fact, in situations, let's say where there's a co-defendant situation where you have two co-defendants, it might be a situation where one co-defendant could always turn state evidence against the other co-defendant, and that makes it a conflict of interest for the same attorney to represent the same two defendants. I mean, the same defendants or co-defendants in the case. Now, it can be done if the co-defendants are going to waive the conflict of interest and there's not going to be a trial in the case. So I've represented co-defendants before where both of my co-defendants were first offenders, and I knew they would probably get some type of dismissal offer. So I worked it out for both of them, and so I got them to fill out a waiver. So the waiver is pretty much saying, yes, we know there's a conflict of interest, but we're willing to proceed with one lawyer anyway. We also agree not to go to trial on the case. So, of course, the moment they determine they want to go to trial, of course, one co-defendant's testimony could hurt the other co-defendant, and I can't represent two people in that situation. So that lets you further know that, of course, as an attorney, as a defense attorney, we represent that one person that's beside us in most situations. So as defense attorneys, we really don't care about justice and what's right for everybody. We care about justice and what's right for this client we're representing right now. On the other hand, the prosecution has to care about the justice of everyone and society as a whole, making sure that the community that they represent understands and is, of course, covered, and what's a good word for it, that they're covered and that the right thing happens, that the just thing happens. Sometimes the just thing for a defense attorney is not the same thing as wouldn't necessarily be just for society. So if my client, as a defense attorney, my job is not necessarily to get people off. And I know people think that, oh, you get people off, how you sleep at night? That's not what I do. As a defense attorney, it's my job. If the prosecution says my client did something, when we go to trial, all I'm saying is, okay, if you believe that my client did it, I'm just going to make you prove it. So prove it. That's what defense attorneys do. So in cases where the prosecution loses the case and the person essentially is acquitted, or what they say he got off, that is more of a situation where the prosecutor was unable to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. So it's not necessarily the defense attorney's fault. What the defense attorney probably did was point out inconsistencies and the bad things about the prosecution's case, which is what my job is primarily, to point out inconsistencies, show that they can't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, and to help and at least protect my client's rights. That's the first thing. So sometimes I have clients that did do it, right? And there's a lot of inculpatory evidence, a large stack of inculpatory evidence, and it's probably going to be a good thing for my client to take a plea and not go to trial. But even in that situation, even if my client did do it, I'm there to cover that, to make sure they're covered, to make sure they're not railroaded, to make sure their rights are respected and honored, and then also try to mitigate the situation for my client as much as possible. In other words, I want to make it as good. So in other words, I'm effective as a defense attorney, even in situations where my client might be guilty, as long as the outcome of the case is better than it would have been if I wasn't there. So that's kind of the definition of effective counsel. To get an outcome in the case that would be better than if I wasn't there, they didn't have counsel at all. So I'm still looking out for their best interest. Even serial killers, Jeffrey Dahmer was eating people, but he had a defense attorney. So that attorney's job was to make sure he wasn't railroaded and things were done the right way, and that he got a fair shot. So that's really all we do as defense attorneys. Like I said, the prosecution has We'll call it, a lot of times we call it prosecutorial discretion. That means they have discretion over what cases to take, what cases to proceed to trial with, what cases to dismiss. So the book talks in depth about prosecutorial discretion. The book also talks about how prosecutors' offices are organized. Of course, you have, in larger jurisdictions and I guess larger cities like Greensboro, the way prosecutors do work is much different than how they would do it even in a neighboring county like Randolph County or Alamance County to the east. Those are smaller, more rural counties, so even the courthouses in those counties aren't as big and as vast as our courthouse here in Greensboro. Matter of fact, in Guilford County, there are not many. I want to say we may be the only jurisdiction in state courts where we actually have two fully stocked courthouses in one county. So I know in Davidson County they have like almost like a little satellite courtroom. They got one in Forsyth as well, but those aren't fully stocked courthouses. It's pretty much just a courthouse where that clerk has to come over from the larger courthouse just to do cases in that city or that town, and then they go back to the other courthouse to process everything. In Guilford County, we have the High Point Courthouse, which is just as big as, if not bigger than, a lot of smaller counties that have one courthouse. That courthouse is bigger than most of those counties. And then within the same county, we also have the Greensboro Courthouse in Guilford County, which is a huge courthouse as well. So of course, we're one of the only counties we are the only county that has two fully stocked, when I say all the way from clerks all the way up to the DAs. We even have a district attorney's office that just works in High Point. Now they're all part of under the Guilford County umbrella, but they're the High Point DAs and we have the Greensboro DAs. And we have a Greensboro Public Defender's Office and a High Point Public Defender's Office. Now, like I said, they're under the same umbrella, but they're just assigned to work in that courthouse. So in a system as big as Guilford County, of course, we have a lot. The prosecutor's office works up much differently. Normally, it's all about assigning cases to groups and working things out as a group, as opposed to in smaller counties, they may be able to assign one attorney that kind of attaches to a case, and they don't necessarily work in groups and subject matter. So it just depends. So read up on that. It was pretty interesting. I never looked at the prosecutor's office and how they're organized, but then when I looked at it, I read that chapter. I was like, wow, okay, yeah, that's how this county does it, how this county does it, and you kind of understand why. So of course, the head prosecutor in most jurisdictions in North Carolina, the head prosecutor is the district attorney for that district. They are an elected position, at least in North Carolina, elected or appointed. And even if they are appointed at some point in time, they may have to run for re-election at the end of a term. So it technically is an elected position that can be appointed if there's a vacancy during the middle of not a session. I just said the word. If they're doing in the middle of a term, that's it. In the middle of their term, let's say if a DA quits or takes another job or just retires, now you have an open space where a head DA needs to be appointed. In that situation in North Carolina, the governor would appoint a person to serve in that stead until they have to run again or file for re-election or file for election after that term. So that's how it works. Like I said, prosecutorial discretion, the main prosecutor, their job, the head prosecutor, their job is to pretty much organize the office and see that everything is done. So a lot of stuff they do is by delegation. In most jurisdictions, you probably won't see the head DA or the chief district attorney, as they call it. You might not even ever see that person in court. Here in Guilford County, our chief district attorney is a straight up delegator, and that's even the last district attorney that served in that position. That's what he did. He just delegated. He said, you work here, and I just look over and supervise to make sure we're working efficiently. immediate past head DA here in Guilford County, his name is H. Douglas Henderson. And he served pretty much the whole time I've been practicing law, he's been the DA. So sometime before, I want to say he might have gotten a position in 03 or 04, and served until, I want to say 2018, that last election cycle. So now he stepped down, didn't want to do it anymore, and retired. And then we made history in Guilford County in 2018 because we elected our first black, not just first black, but first black female. So not only is she the first black person, but she's also the first black female to serve in that steed as Chief District Attorney in Guilford County. And her name is Avery Crump. So remember that. That may come up as extra credit. You never know. I always throw stuff like that. Make sure you know a little history or can Google. But yeah, her job is to delegate. So she puts people in the courtrooms and divides things up. So really a lot of her job is organization. That's what she does, keeping the office organized. Of course, she also has a budget, has to figure out how to pay people, and who to pay what and who to graduate to another level or bring up to a certain level where they have more responsibility. So that's also how it works in public defender's offices as well. Aaliyah, you have your hand up?
I just wanted to ask, what was she again?
She's the Chief District Attorney in Guilford County. She was elected in 2018. And
Thank you so much.
Her name is Avery Crump. She actually attended. I can't remember where she went undergrad, but I know she attended North Carolina Central School of Law. And she's actually a North Carolina country girl. She's from Statesville, North Carolina. So anybody from Iredell County, you know where Statesville is. She's actually from Statesville. I don't remember where she did her undergrad, got her undergrad degree. It might have been from Central as well, but I know she went to law school at Central. So she's older than me. She would have come out in the 90s, probably mid to late 90s, like maybe 95, 96. But she's in that position. And so it's a lot. I guess as a DA, you can never really make everybody happy because sometimes she does stuff to piss defense attorneys off. Usually most of the time she does stuff to piss us off, but she's delegating and at least doing she's keeping the ship afloat at this point, especially now with this COVID stuff going on. So she, there's a lot that has to be managed between the what I call the stakeholders of the courthouse. So you also have the head clerk, the chief. So in North Carolina, we call the head of each department or each office in the courthouse the chief. So we have the chief clerk of Superior Court or the clerk of Superior Court. You have the chief district court judge, the chief Superior Court judge, the chief public defender. All those people are stakeholders in the courthouse. And essentially they, even when it comes down to closings for inclement weather or even with this COVID stuff going on, they essentially have a powwow to work out how they're gonna do things, how things are gonna be done, how they're gonna keep us safe. So I can say, even though it hasn't necessarily been 100%, at least there hasn't been any major outbreaks in the courthouse. There've probably been about 5 or 6 people that got it since March. But that's part of, so even stuff like that is not even just about prosecuting cases for the head DA, and it's not even about defending cases for the public defender's office. It's about more than that. It's about delegating, organizing, figuring out who's going to do what, meeting to see if the courthouse is even going to be safe to be open. So all that stuff comes into play when you're the head of that office. Then also outside of prosecutorial discretion, of course, there's always that issue of how, I guess, the disparities in how they prosecute, people of color versus how they may prosecute people who are not of color. And a lot of that starts with policing. So a lot of times, even Kamala Harris was at least on the federal side, I want to say she was the head. So what I've been talking about now is all state stuff. So you also have federal prosecutors, or what we call the U.S. attorney. So the main U.S. attorney, of course, that is pretty much a cabinet level position, is the secretary. What's he called? Now I can't think of it. Matter of fact, Eric Holder was in that position for President Obama, and then he appointed the young lady from actually from Greensboro. I can't think of her name now. That is the Attorney General. So you have the Attorney General's office on the federal level, and of course they delegate, and of course they put people in different positions in different federal offices per state or per district. So that's how that works. So it's much of the same thing. They delegate and they appoint, they hire, they fire. They have people under them that work as assistant or what they call deputy U.S. attorneys that prosecute cases. So it works a lot the same way. We call the DAs on the state side assistant or deputy DAs that work under the head DA or the chief district attorney. So it works the same way. Same thing on the public defender side. You have the federal defender and they're appointed cases, and they represent people on a court-appointed basis. Now, court-appointed attorneys are not free. What they are is they're not. There's no money that's due up front when they represent you. So if you are convicted, and that gives the court jurisdiction to impose a fine or impose court costs and the cost of an attorney against you, then in that situation, you have to pay for the attorney based upon their hourly rate. So I do court-appointed work. So I'm a private attorney, but I take private cases. I have clients that walk in and hire me, and I'm also on the court-appointed list. So when court-appointed cases come down, I get a call from the courthouse. I go check my box, and I have a new case. Like usually every other day, there's something in my box. So it's still, things are still busy. So I now have those cases on an appointment basis. I represent them. I keep up with my hours. I keep up with what I'm doing for them. And at the end of the case, I turn in a fee application. In that fee application, I document. I say these are my hours, and I get paid a certain amount per hour, depending on the level of the case. So I turn that in, and it's and of course, if the client is convicted, the client is now on the hook for paying that back as a part of their court fees. If I'm in a case like that and the case gets dismissed, and I get the client, get the case dismissed, or the client is acquitted after trial, I still get my money. It's just now the client doesn't have to pay it. Essentially, it becomes it comes from the coffers of indigent defense services, and who they're pretty much paid through other people's court costs and taxpayer funds. So either way it goes, I'm gonna get my money. We're gonna get our money. But it just depends on who's paying it based upon whether the court has jurisdiction over a person. So once a person's case is dismissed, that is essentially the court relinquishing jurisdiction over the person. Saying the case is dismissed, so the DA is saying that we don't have jurisdiction over you anymore. So the court can't order a person to do something if the case has been dismissed. So that's how that works. So you notice I'm talking about kind of defense and prosecution. But even back to what I was talking about with disparities, some disparities in prosecution aren't necessarily prosecutorial disparities, but they can be law enforcement disparities. So if there's going to be more law enforcement in an area where more Black people reside, that means there probably going to also be more arrests. If there are more arrests, that means more Black people are going to be exposed to the criminal justice system because of policing. So even they talk about Kamala Harris, and how she, prosecuted people. That was her job. It has nothing to do with what she's doing now as president. If you're a prosecutor, your job is to prosecute cases. And believe it or not, there are some bad people out there that actually committed the crime and they need to go to jail. So as a prosecutor, that also puts her in a prime position to help protect us from the bad guys. Because even though we're in this situation and we do need criminal justice reform, we can't forget that there are bad people out here who mean you harm and will do you harm. And I would like for those people, if they're like that, to go to jail, to essentially not be in a situation where they can harm us. That doesn't mean I don't believe that there needs to be serious policing reform. But we can't forget that there are bad guys out here. There are Jeffrey Dahmer, serial killers, people that eat your brains and all that stuff, people that rob you for no reason. It's people like that. And those that there are bad people. Somebody's got to prosecute them, and somebody has to arrest them. I know I don't want to be the police. So those who are police, that means they've taken on that task of now also going after bad guys. They shouldn't become bad guys in doing it, which is kind of what we have today because there's a lack of accountability. And I think you have some resources, just like with defund the police. I don't know where most of you stand politically, but from where I stand, defunding the police isn't about eradicating police altogether. It is about reorganizing police, in my opinion, and it's about making sure that monies go to sensitivity training to make sure they know, and also to make sure they know how to effectively de-escalate situations, and to make sure we have the correct staffing, because sometimes policemen are called to situations where they don't really have the know-how and aren't really qualified to handle certain situations. If it's a mental health situation, where now they have to kind of pinpoint what's going on with this person that they've been tasked with responding to or got a call on. Does this person suffer from bipolar disorder or schizophrenia? Do they just need their medicine? Are they really a danger? So a lot of times we're asking police officers, and no shot to police, because I know some of you may want to be police, and it's good. We need people to get degrees and get educated before they become cops, because actually to become a police officer, you actually really what qualifies you is just getting a high school diploma. So a lot of you guys are majoring in criminal justice, and some of you guys want to go into policing. Right now, just by sitting in this seat in college, you're already overqualified for the job. So by the time you get a degree, you're overqualified. You're overqualified for what the basic what they're looking for. They're looking for high school graduates. So just by taking that extra step to get an education in criminal justice, you've already taken it to the next level. So you got a lot of people that are essentially thrown out on the streets and asked to do a lot and to solve the world's problems, and they literally just got a high school diploma. So that means they're not necessarily qualified to solve every situation. Not saying anything bad about them, because there's some cops out here who do an awesome job, but I think it is a little bit scary that you have prosecutors that now have to prosecute cases that come from people that may not be qualified to be out here in the streets trying to solve the world's problems. So a lot of that is now dumped into the prosecutor's lap, and they have to make a decision and decide what they're going to prosecute and what they aren't. And that is what we call screening, when they screen cases, determining who they're going to assign the case to, how they're going to prosecute it, whether they're willing to go to trial on it, or whether they want to dismiss it. All that's part of the screening process. So the book also talked about prosecutorial screening, and essentially, which is essentially assigning a level of priority on a per case basis. Like, what are we going to do with this case? Sometimes on a case by case basis, sometimes on a subject matter case basis. These are property crimes. This is how we're going to do property crimes. This is how we're going to do misdemeanors. This is how we're going to do felonies. This is how we're going to do violent crimes against the person or whatever. So they have to think about all that. Now, flipping back to the defense attorney, there's not just public, of course, prosecutors are always attorneys for the people. So they are what we call public attorneys, or attorneys for the state, or attorneys for the government. Now, as a defense attorney, you can either be court appointed, which means you're essentially getting paid by the state entity. It doesn't mean you're working with the prosecution. It doesn't, we don't even get paid from the same coffers. So a lot of people say, I don't want no public defender. They're working with the state. They are state employees, but they're not working with the prosecution. The prosecution doesn't pay them. They don't work together. As a matter of fact, a lot of times people, they expect, they think their defense attorney isn't working for them because they're nice or have a relationship. They're not cussing the prosecutor out. And that's not how it works. A lot of prosecutors I went to law school with, I've known them I've been practicing law now for 13 years. So there's some people working in the prosecutor's office I've known for at least 15 to 16 years because I remember they were in law school with me. And just because they're a prosecutor now doesn't mean they stop being my friend. I don't speak to them. Of course, because we're on opposing sides, we're not always going to agree. And sometimes those agreements may even lead to arguments or fussing. But I still have to come back and work with that person tomorrow and work out things with that person. So a lot of times an attorney being an approachable person and being nice to the prosecutor is actually helping the defendant. If I'm a jerk, of course, they're going to treat my client a certain way because, oh my God, here comes Boyce. So that means whoever my client is can be hurt by that. So I prefer to be, approach things as a professional. Do I argue with DAs from time to time? Yes. Do I sometimes think they make bad decisions? Do I think they're stupid? Not on aggregate, not everybody, but sometimes individual DAs, I'm like, what the hell are you thinking? That was the dumbest thing ever. Did you not see that? Did you not see that? And it happens, we argue with our friends, right? Sometimes our friends do stupid stuff and we're like, that was stupid, but we still love you. That's kind of the love-hate relationship we have with the other side, but it doesn't mean we have to be mean with them or anything like that. But on the defense side, you don't just have public defenders and court appointed. You also have private attorneys like myself. So that's when an attorney is out here representing criminal defendants for hire. And we're out here, of course, we have ethics and rules, bar rules we have to follow and doing things. Just like the DA has ethical rules and standards as well. So we're both attorneys, prosecutors and defense attorneys. We're just working on opposing sides. And a lot of times when we can work together and have a good working relationship, that can mean that we get better outcomes for, at least for the even defendant clients, we can get better outcomes. Sometimes justice is in the middle. Sometimes I have a client, all my clients aren't, I don't have any, what I would say, just pure evil or just malicious clients. Sometimes most of my clients are clients who have been put in a situation and they make a bad decision to try to get out of a bad situation. And sometimes it's a matter of them making the best bad decision as opposed to the worst bad decision. So some people, because of where they are in life, every day is nothing more than a set of bad decisions.
Dude, you know us. You don't care.
So it's nothing more than just a set of bad decisions, and that's sometimes how it is. So my clients, a lot of times, they are a product of the environment they're in. They're not bad people. I might have a single mom who gets caught stealing some bread and some Similac from the grocery store, but she got 4 kids and she has a job, but she's underemployed. She's making, she might be making $10 an hour, and that's all right, but it's not all right when you or got 4 kids and you got overhead, you got to worry about rent. And that's the thing. That's the crazy thing about America, with the way we pay people. People will work 40 or 60 hours a week, which also takes them away from their family, which turns a lot of kids into what we call turnkey kids, where by 4th to 5th grade, they're now coming home alone and all this stuff. And they spend a lot of time without parental supervision because you might have a single parent and he or she got to work to keep a roof over your head. So by the time your parent is now working and putting, because 40 hours a week is full time, right? Anything over that is overtime. So you got some people putting 60 plus hours in a week, but if you ain't making that much money per hour, you're doing that and you're not getting very much return on that investment, and that's time you'll never get back. But you still can barely make ends meet. So sometimes people make bad decisions. It's like, hey, how are we gonna eat this week? I think I'm going up the food line and see what I can get up out of there. If I get caught, I get caught, and that's sometimes what their thinking is. I don't think they're bad people. They're just people in bad situations. So I'm never judgmental of my clients in their situation. I just don't believe in doing that. You have to I take my clients as they are in their situation. So I very seldom have a client that's really just a bad person. Even these guys out in the streets taking lives, there's certain types of games that if you decide to play, if you want to be in the drug hustle, the drug hustle is much like corporate America. You have hostile takeovers, you have competition. Think about Greensboro. There's always, how many McDonald's do you see where there's not a Burger King around the corner from it, trying to compete, trying to push burgers. The only problem is in the drug game, if they want that corner, they're not just gonna post up. They're gonna kill you to get that corner. So there's a little bit more at stake in the game. So these guys trying to get quick money. Is kill or be killed, and that's kind of what it turns into. So you have people that turn to the drug game because it is easy money. in my opinion, as long as I've been practicing law, when I look at stuff, people say I want to be in the drug game because I don't want to work hard, but actually being a drug dealer is actually harder work than if you just would have went to college and done it the right way. Because actually, you end up people don't realize drug dealers put in 40 plus hours a week. You're on the corner. You're always watching your back, looking over your shoulder. Is it the cops or is it the a rival drug dealer trying to kill me? Are my employees stealing from me? There's a lot you have to worry about. So you're doing that, and then you're always gonna get caught because drug dealers are, there's not a drug dealer out there. If you know one, if they ain't got caught yet, they about to get caught. So you always got to take a hit. You always get caught doing something, whether it's petty or whether it's major. So you end up having to pay out attorneys fees, and sometimes you even end up having to go to jail. And of course, when you're in jail, no matter how long the time is, you're not making money in jail. So if you look at a big time kingpin drug dealer over the same 40-year period of someone that decided to go to college like you guys, when you really look at what they make, of course, the drug dealer, they have this spike at the beginning. Oh, I made $1 million, I made $2 million, $3 million, but that was like over a 5-year period. But what about that 15 years you spent in prison? So once you average all that out, it ends up in what they spend and the time away from family, it ends up being more of a cost, and they end up not making as much money than if they just would have done it the regular way and done it the right way. And that's just how it is. So even when I represent people that are in the drug game, I look at their situation, and I don't judge them. I choose not to judge my clients. And this is what it is. Sometimes people they make bad decisions because of bad situations, and sometimes there's a lot of people that commit crimes. They're just stupid. They make bad, they're like, why'd you do that? And as a defense attorney, a lot of times we know stupid people because you got caught. I tell people like, you're really horrible at doing that because you got caught. Like, why didn't you do it this way? So I honestly, as a defense attorney, I would probably be a criminal mastermind because I've seen everybody mess everything up. So it's like, wow, why didn't you just do this? This would have been a great way to get away with that money or sell drugs and do this and not get caught. Why did you do that? So it just is what it is. But I'm kind of going on now, so let me shut it down. Any questions about chapter 5? I don't know if chapter 6 lecture isn't posted, but for you guys that may have read ahead, is there any question about chapter 5 or chapter 6? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Once again, next week we will not meet via Zoom. Next week we usually have quiz number 1. So I'll probably post a reminder. I think I got it set where the quiz is gonna does it let you know when a quiz? So in Blackboard, do y'all get a message when a test or a quiz is up?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it'll be up. I want to say it'll be at 7 a.m. Excuse me. On the 22nd. So next what's it? Day's the 15th. So a week from now, instead of us meeting, the quiz is going to be up. So it's going to be up at 7 a.m. So 7 a.m. next Tuesday. The quiz will be up. Chapter 6, the lecture will be up tomorrow morning at 7. So that'll give you opportunity to look at my full lecture. And that means you also need to read the chapter and understand what the chapter is talking about. So as long as you've been in the book, and I think for this quiz, definitely, I want to say most of the questions I got off the book's website. I think during my lectures, I might even in my lectures, am I showing y'all the book and the website? I think I want to say I did. But there's a website for your textbook. I can't remember it offhand. I don't have the textbook on me now. But if you go to the website for the textbook, you can do like a chapter by chapter review, and they have like a review questions or like a quiz for each chapter. So I know for certain on this quiz, I don't think all of them come from those, but a good bit of the questions I know I literally ripped directly from the student portal where you can do a little online quizzes. So a lot of times I use that as a test bank. And I know I definitely did for quiz number 1 a little bit. So they're probably out of the 15 questions, there are at least 4 or 5 questions that I know probably came directly from that. So if you'll just do that, look at the outline of the chapter review. They even have flashcards and even some videos and stuff like that. But if you go over that, look at that, then do the quizzes for each chapter. At least even if I'm not necessarily using those same questions, you're at least boning up and sharpening your knowledge, and you should be prepared for whatever questions you get on any quiz. And of course, the quiz is all multiple choice questions, 15 questions. I want to say I'm giving you 90 minutes to do 15 questions. So you got a full 90 minutes to answer 15 questions. So because it's hard for me to, I know some people may have disabilities and may need longer time. So it's hard for me to, on an online test, to give one person a regular amount of time and the other person a long or extended amount of time. So I can't do it like on a per student basis. So the way I do it, I just give everybody a long time. So I think that's the fairest way to do it. So you got at least, I think, 90 minutes to answer 15 questions. So I think that is everybody cool with that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes.
So like I said, we're not meeting next Tuesday, but you do have the quiz up, and I want to say the quiz will be up. Now I'm trying to remember if it's Tuesday. I think you need to do it by. I want to say I think you have until Friday at midnight. Let me check for certain. Hold on. Let me make sure if I get y'all. I want to make sure y'all know how much time you got. Oh, Amanda Seals is coming to and speaking. You know, that's my little celebrity crush. Amanda Seals is woke.
I don't know about all that.
You said what?
I said I don't know about all that. She has her moments.
I mean, that's a sharp woman. Her and it's a few of them is pretty sharp. The sharp sisters. Let me see, Blackboard. I don't always agree with what she says, but I like the fact that she's outspoken and has a voice, and she's usually right. But you know, sometimes I disagree, but there's nothing wrong with disagreeing with a sister. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. That's true.
That's true, right? You don't want no pushover, do you?
Definitely not.
Look at that. See? Let me see here. All right. Quiz 1. Yeah, it'll be up on the 22nd. Let me check. From the 22nd to the 25th. So whenever, that's essentially the 25th is Friday. So yeah, till Friday at 11:59. So as I said before, I know I love y'all, my little millennials. I love y'all to death, but some of y'all be procrastinating. Just get in there and do the test. Now I know you got to, you can relax and don't have to do it day one. But why not, right? If you've prepared, you shouldn't have to cram for this. We're not in person, right? That's the only thing about online learning is you kind of can do it at your own pace, and sometimes your own pace is chilling. And it's still a school, it's still a semester, you still need to work. So I know things are hard, and this is weird for me as well, right? For professors, but just get on in there and take the exam. If you have a technical difficulty or something, I know some of you guys aren't even on the East Coast, right? I think some people are like in different places, learning remotely. Everything is Eastern Standard Time. So it's 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. That means it would be 8:59 on the West Coast, and Central Time it would be what? Now I can't. Now I got. I think 9:59 or something like that. But just know it's. I'm going by Eastern Standard Time, so remember that. So that's the deadline. So it'll be up at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it'll be due by that Friday the 25th, 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. All right. So everybody got it. Let me make sure. Yep, it'll be up at 7 a.m. on the 22nd. So do that thing early. Get it done. Don't wait. You might need to, cram a little bit, but give it a day at the most, and go ahead and get that thing done. Okay. Don't have me out here having to extend the deadline. Okay. because one of these days I'm not going to extend it. So get your work done. Tell your friends. I know y'all got friends in this class. Tell a neighbor. Reach over and tell your neighbor to do their test. Okay. Okay. Somebody say okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
You good, bro?
Yeah. So y'all be good. I think that's all I need to go over tonight. So y'all the quiz is on chapters 1 through 6. But y'all be good because it's almost 7 o'clock and I need to jump out of here and go run. All right. Take care.
You too.
Thank you.
Anybody?
You too. Have a great week.
All
Good
right.
little,
What?
good little try to catch.
Oh. Anybody needed to make sure they were on the roll. Make sure they signed in. Everybody good. Okay.
Did you get me, Ariel Sherrod?
I did not. I'm glad you stayed on. I called your name, but you weren't on me. I got you now.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, y'all be good.
No, sir. But if I have a question, because I'm gonna go back and study some stuff. But if I have a question, can I just email you that question?
You certainly can.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Everybody good. All right, take care.